Hi, welcome back. I'm Sheldon McLeod. This is Thinking Out Loud, presented to you by SaltWire. And I was one of those kids who saw Jaws and then was very much interested and frightened by the whole concept of great white sharks. And over the last number of years, I had distinct pleasure of speaking with some of the folks involved with O-Search, the group that had been coming up to Nova Scotia to tag great white sharks. And then this popped up recently, and I was very intrigued by the Atlantic Shark Expedition's immersive shark experiences. And in fact, this is something that will be happening here in Nova Scotia, something called Great Whites of Nova Scotia, Canada. And to talk a little bit about this, we have a very wonderful opportunity here to learn more from Dr. Neil. And Dr. Neil Hammerschlag is joining us from his home. And thank you very much for speaking with me. I appreciate this.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be on.
Tell me a little bit about your background, Doctor.
I was actually grew up in Toronto, just north of Toronto, went to the University of Toronto, Canada, interested in science and and really love the ocean. So I try to combine my passion for science and ocean into a career in marine biology. Went to school in Florida for my master's, then my PhD, and I got hired at the University of Miami, where as a faculty, a researcher and professor, where I started the University of Miami Shark Research and Conservation Program, and have done research all over the world, including studying great whites off of South Africa for the last 20 years. But I realized, in addition to the importance of research, there's a big knowledge gap in how that research gets channeled to the public. And the thing is, I love sharks. If I want to conserve sharks, and I know that generally people only protect what they love. And so I thought, there's this disconnect between shark conservation in terms of the science and the public engagement side of things. And I thought it was just a wonderful opportunity here in Nova Scotia to come back home to Canada and do research, but at the same time engage the public through ecotourism.
And this ecotourism includes an opportunity to see a shark up close and personal. Tell me what is involved with that expedition.
Yeah, so these expeditions are going to be running August through the end of October, where people will be able to join our research team in the field. Anyone from the public can come on the boat, have the privilege of going out to find great white sharks out in the wild, seeing them, getting in a shark cage, going underwater, seeing them, taking photographs. Those photographs will help contribute to our science to create a database of the different individuals. And while we're out there observing the sharks, we're also going to try and be tagging them from the boat with special tagging poles and lances, as well as taking biopsies and various other types of measurements.
And I want to talk a little bit more about that in a second, but this is research-based. What permissions are required to do something like this?
Well, to do research, you need to get a permit from Department of Fisheries and Oceans Canada, particularly the Species at Risk division, because great whites are considered protected and species at risk. So it's an important permit that makes sure that the research that you're doing and the activities you're doing enhance the recovery of the species in the region.
And I know that you go to great lengths on the website to talk about what you don't do in order to attract these creatures. So tell me a little bit about that safety aspect to keep people from becoming associated with food with great whites.
Yeah, I mean, I think, sharks generally, they're not really interested in being around boats or people, and certainly, don't come willingly to researchers either. So we have to attract them toward the boat, and so we use bait to do that. We use, pieces of fish and other prey that will hopefully spark their interest to come towards the boat. And because of that, there's been some, I would say, misconceptions that somehow, we'll be feeding the sharks and teaching them to associate people with food. But that is, really certainly not correct, because we're not out there to feed the sharks. We're out there to attract the sharks like they would under normal circumstances to prey. We go to areas where the great whites already exist. So, we can't find them if they're not there. We're just trying to kind of intercept them in a spot that they're already there and get their attention to the boat. And then, no one's going to be like hand feeding the sharks. That could probably be the only way to associate people with food. We're just luring them in. People are going to be in a cage. Sharks' vision is not good enough that they can see someone in a cage. They will see an outline in a cage or a boat. So it's not like any association with people. And then, I use the ocean. My kids use the ocean. So we want to be safe. We're not going to operate anywhere near where people are in the water. We're not interested in operating places where there are people. So not popular surfing or swimming beaches. Just because we're leaving out of a town doesn't mean we're going to be operating right off the town. We're going to travel on the boat to try to get to these places and help learn more about these sharks.
And you said from a town. So Liverpool is the town?
Liverpool, Nova Scotia is where the daily expeditions will be running out of.
And why choose Liverpool?
Because it's an area where we believe nearby, when I say nearby, tens of kilometers away, there's some areas that hold a lot of potential prey like seals, just further off the coastline and south. So we think it's just good and natural habitat for these animals. So it's really the habitat that's drawing us to those areas. We believe the animals are already there based on healthy habitats and also availability of seal prey.
This is something new for Nova Scotia from what I know. I've been in this area of the province for more than 20 years. And when I first located here, shark derbies were quite popular, that people would catch sharks, not white sharks particularly, but that was also controversial, but had an element of science and research to it as well. So what are you hoping to learn from this?
Yeah, so we are hoping to learn a number of things. We're hoping to identify which habitats are probably some of the most important for these sharks, where they might use certain areas more than others, because if you're going to recover a species, you need to also know which habitats they rely on. We're also particularly interested in how ocean warming and heat waves are influencing the behavior of these animals, because as we know, the climate in the oceans are changing pretty rapidly. We're interested in getting a sense of the toxicology of these sharks. Are these animals healthy? Are they polluted from things that, toxins that might get into the waterway, like toxic heavy metals? We're also interested in, from a research point of view, just trying to get an idea what's the relative abundance of animals? What is the ratio of males to females? What are their size ranges and potential ages? And, over time, how are numbers going to be changing? Are they remaining stable? Are they increasing? Are they decreasing? Because I think if you want to monitor the health of a population, you have to have some idea of numbers over time. And so that's going to be a real critical aspect of the work, which is why we need to be out there as much as possible, and why photographs are going to be really important, particularly those from the tourists who are going to help us build an ID database.
And is that the idea for this to be a tourist destination, or is that just to help offset the research?
Oh, it's to offset the research. Sciences costs money. It's a really, what fuel is these days, and boats and activities, and, to do the work. So, basically the cost is to help to offset the research and to do the work. And we're really hopeful that this works out from a research point of view, but also the costs are to support the ecotourism, because ecotourism is also an important way to demonstrate to people that these sharks are worth more alive than they are dead. And that's important because sharks globally are declining due to overfishing, habitat destruction. And, unfortunately, sharks have a bad reputation, and sharks occasionally make a mistake and bite people. And in some areas, that's led to people culling sharks, to actually going out and trying to catch and kill them because they're considered a menace to public health. And so we're hoping that people, by going out on these tours, people will gain an appreciation for sharks, that if a shark bite, would ever occur, people would not react in a knee-jerk way like, oh, these are monsters, but in fact, just by seeing them and experiencing them, feel an appreciation and an understanding of their value to the ecosystem. And hopefully Nova Scotians will be very proud of having great whites here. This is probably one of the few remaining strongholds for great whites globally. So having them here, I think, is actually very exciting and very special. And I hope people, realize that. And we're also at the same time for local business trying to show, healthy shark populations are going to be helpful to you because, when we bring tourists to Liverpool, they have to fly there, they have to get transportation there, they have to eat there, they have to have accommodations there, they buy local souvenirs. I mean, it can be a big benefit for local economies as well. And so we're hopeful to demonstrate the value of a healthy shark population too, and what that means for their conservation.
And are these expeditions being booked now?
They are. So people can go on our website at atlanticsharkexp.com and book August, September, and October, and for 2023 and 2024 already.
And how has it been going? What's the reaction been?
The reaction has been fantastic. It is amazing how many people are so appreciative that are, phoning us up saying, this is a dream come true. They've always, wished that ever since they're a little kid, they can see a great white shark in the wild. This is just an absolute, dream come true. There are other people who, thought that this is a great opportunity to help science. They kind of said, I always wanted to be a marine biologist when I grew up, but I wasn't good at math. And here's an opportunity to be a marine biologist for the day as well. So the response has been overwhelmingly positive, and it makes me feel really good to be providing people with that opportunity.
And are these folks who are from around the globe, or these local folks? I'm just curious as to what the typical shark explorer looks like.
They're actually mostly Nova Scotian, which is really amazing. So when we had opened up a few months ago, to taking bookings, I was posting on my social media, which is a global audience, and a lot of people were, there wasn't a lot of interest. I mean, there's a lot of interest, but people were reluctant, to travel from far away to a place where there's never been this before. People like to see pictures posting from other people before they're going to commit. But right now, once we got a little bit of local media attention, the people from Nova Scotia have been absolutely excited and lining up to take advantage of the opportunity. And
is it possible that you'll run out of spaces, or I'm curious about how that's how that
so
looks
August, September, it looks like we're gonna probably run out of spaces for August, September, and who knows for October. But it's not like this is not a Disney tour that are taking thousands of people. The maximum number of people a single time are 8. So it's it's not if you think of some of the boats in I know there's cage diving boats in South Africa. They take 40 people at a time and they run 3 trips a day, and there's 9 boats doing that in one spot. So 8 boats for 8 spots for 7 hours on the water is not a lot. And again, we only have really 3 months, of which who knows, a quarter of them are going to be probably weathered out.
Right. And when it comes to what the requirements are, as it says on your site, you don't have to be a diver. This is through using a snorkel and a wetsuit.
Exactly. Yeah. You just have to be brave enough to get into cold water.
And it is cold. It can be. I guess in the fall, that's when it warms up the most. Is that when it's more likely that we'll see or have an opportunity? As you said, there's no guarantee that you're going to see a shark. So better probabilities. Is that why you chose that time, or because of the weather?
Yeah, I mean, the animals just on their natural migration. They are snowbirds. They go south during the winter months and come up here during the summer months, and really the late fall when the water's the warmest here is in early and kind of mid-late fall is when they like being around in the warm water to take advantage of what we believe is an abundance of healthy food supply here.
And as you mentioned, this is about education. Ecotourism is something on the rise, and you're quite committed to teaching about these animals. Will there be opportunities? Is there an age restriction or limit in any way?
Yeah, the youngest age, I mean, really the age restriction is based on how long we think someone can spend on 7 hours on a boat and be happy. And I think we do have an age restriction of 10 years old. But anyone under 19 has to be accompanied by a parent. And there's going to be a huge educational component. Even if we don't see sharks on a given day, out on the boat, you're going to be educated by, marine biologists, professional marine biologists. You're going to have tons of learning opportunities. We're going to see other wildlife, and we're going to talk a lot about the biology of great white sharks.
Why are you fascinated by sharks? Why do you think others are as well?
Well, me personally, I've had a lot of opportunity to be around sharks, and being around them, especially in the water with them, is just an amazing experience that I can't really describe. You have to just do it. And I think it changes people on this like molecular level. I don't know why. It's just being, in the water with an animal that, has been evolving, on the planet. Sharks as a group have been around 440 million years to be these efficient predators. And it's pretty awe-inspiring. And then other people, I think maybe because originally through fear, I think fear often turns to fascination, and people just, they're fascinated by things that they don't know, and sometimes fascinated by things they're scared of. And I think what's going to happen is people are going to come out in the boat and see that these are actually very cautious creatures that are very elegant and are very coordinated and graceful. And when they learn on the boat about just the amazing biology of these animals and their ecological importance and their threats facing their survival, I think that's going to further not only inform people, but win them over as shark advocates.
Well, it is. It sounds like it's going to be a fabulous adventure for the people who commit to signing up, and I wish you nothing but the best. Is there anything else, Doctor, that we didn't touch on that you think is germane to this conversation?
No, I mean, I think it's going to be a really great time, and we're going to learn a lot, and hopefully people are going to get to see great white sharks in the wild. And I really hope that, especially since most of the locals are going to be there, is that they really, take advantage of that and feel very proud to have great whites in swimming in our waters.
And the pushback, I know, again, this is about education. Are you worried about some of the negative, perhaps, feelings towards these animals and this adventure that you're offering?
Oh, I think that, people are going to voice their concern, and hopefully they'll see that the concern is putting, beach users at risk. But I actually think that our awareness, I think people have to learn that the white sharks, the great whites, are here. Sightings appear to be rising. They go to areas where there's seals, and generally those areas have poor visibility. What's attracting them to these areas are not going to be, anything that we're doing. It's going to be what their natural prey, which I don't know if you've ever smelled a seal, but they're pretty noticeable, especially to great whites. So, I think we're trying to educate people. These sharks are here. Don't go in the water in places where you see lots of seal activity, or a great white has been recently spotted, or someone's fishing, because fishing, people are putting out fish and catching things that sharks like eat to other fish. So might ring the dinner bell for them as well. And so, we're not going to operate in areas where their people are, but people also have to not get in the water where sharks might naturally be occurring. And so we're hoping to educate people. And I think ultimately this is going to have a really positive effect on the sharks, and it's going to have a positive effect on local economy. And I think it's going to educate a lot of people. And hopefully that will all come together to help conserve the sharks.
Well, thank you for sharing and telling me about this. Dr. Neil Hammerschlag, marine ecologist and hockey and Pearl Jam fan. So is your team still alive in the playoffs?
Oh yeah, Maple Leafs tonight. They might take it, but you know what? Every year they win a game, and then a first playoff game, and it's like, oh my goodness, we start planning the parade. So I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm one of those. So, but they tend to always find a way to disappoint. But I've got my fingers crossed.
All right. Thank you for this. I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you. Take care.